Hi guys, today we're going to build a very useful tool, this one here. And this is a kind of adapter to be used between flat cables and our breadboard. So, a standard flat cable, it doesn't matter how many wires it has. It comes with a special connector called IDC connector. As you can see, to not lose the position, because you cannot connect it like that or like that, there is a wire usually which has a different color, but it's not the same if you have a multicolored piece of flat cable. But more importantly, there is a kind of notch right here on the connector. And when you use the counterpart of that connector, the counterpart has an opening, so it has to align with the other one, okay? Now, what is the problem with that? If you just solder it on a printed board, there is no problem at all. The problem arrives when you need to check a project, like this one being a big digit, it needs a flat cable. So when the flat cable has to come on the breadboard, the pitch here for the pins is 0.1 inches or 2.54 millimeter. So when you try to plug it on the slot, you cannot, it won't fit, simply because the distance between the two rows across the slot is 0.3 inches or 7.62 millimeters, okay? So for that reason, you cannot use that kind of counterpart. You need to use another one, and I have here such a counterpart. And this kind of adapter for the breadboard, it's exactly, apparently the same kind of connector here, with the same opening, but on the other side, as you can see, it was soldered on a little printed board, and it has some pins on the side, enlarging the actual connection, so it's going to fit on the breadboard right across the slot, so then you can plug your cable easily like that. So this is where you need this kind of adapter, okay? Now, why do you need to build it? Because if I have a sample here, I took it out of the bag, I ordered it, and I bought it. The problem is, these kind of connectors, I'm looking for them for months, and they are back ordered. So I won't have them easily. And because of this, we're going to be able to make together one or any number of them you need ourselves. That's the project for today. How to make such a thing? Instead of ordering it, okay? Let's emphasize to see the problem we have with these kind of connectors. So again, in the most of the cases, when you need the bigger number of pins, you have a flat cable. So yes, you're going to plug the flat cable, everything looks nice, but when you go on the other side to connect it in all the points of the breadboard where you need to go with the wiring, take a look, such a mess, you know? So it's a whole mess, and if one or two of these wires, they come out of the board, you're gonna spend some time trying to figure out what happens, okay? So this kind of style is not that good actually, okay? So let's disconnect this one. We put it away. Okay, we put the mess away. And we bring here another one. This one here, okay? So for this one here, I'm going to plug an adapter. First is going to be the adapter, the original one, but I only have one, okay? And I'm gonna plug it here. And then, instead of having separated wires coming over here, I have the flat cable. I can just connect right away. And when I'm gonna give it power, okay, when I'm gonna give it power, it's gonna show me what I need. So I stop the power, I remove it from the breadboard, and instead of the one I bought some time ago, but again it's back ordered, I can't find it anymore, I have here one made by myself, okay? So I plug this one here in the same position as the other one, and I plug my cable back. Again, be careful about the notch, it has to align with the opening, and then by giving it power, it's gonna show me the same number. So my little adapter is working just fine, okay? So that's what we're gonna do. We remove it from here, and we move back to the other table to see what do we need to build it, okay? This is a hacksaw blade. You don't need a hacksaw, just the blade is good enough. Because these kind of protoboards, they don't oppose resistance. They are made of fiber. You need a piece of sandpaper, okay? You need a little vise, because at one point you need to hold your little protoboard to cut it. Or at least if you don't have a little vise, at least you need a adjustable clamp like this, because you have to keep this one in place until you cut it. Okay? And then, so again, these are the tools you need. A blade for your hacksaw, a piece of sandpaper. You need one of these. I have a whole bunch here, you can find them on the net. This one is actually a 3 by 7 centimeter, okay? And I have here a couple of pieces, I already cut them. If you can watch this one here, I cut this one from a similar board. You can still see the letters. You can still see the letters, you see? So it's cut right from here, okay? So you're going to need a 3 by 7 centimeter protoboard. You need your soldering station, some solder, a connector. Today we're gonna make a connector, an adapter for 16-pin connectors. So 16-pin connectors. It's the same principle for 20. If you watch this little board, it has 10 holes per row. 10 holes per row. So this one has 8 per row, because 8 times 2 is 16 pins. So it's going to fit somewhere here in the middle, you see? It's fitting perfectly. But the same is going to be for the one with 20 pins, because it has 2 times 10 pins. Obviously, if you need to make one like this, which is 26 pin, you need a larger protoboard. But this one is perfect for 16 and 20. So we're gonna make one, okay? Now, there are 2 methods. One method is to cut from the beginning the board in several pieces, like I did. So you're going to have some pieces. After you cut them, you can use your sandpaper to make them looking nicer, okay? Or if it is the first section you cut, we're gonna do this. We're gonna pick up such a connector, okay? We plug it here. We plug the connector here in the middle. And then, if I take a look, and I pick one, this is a 2x8 IDC connector, and I'm going to plug it, let me see, in the middle, like that, okay? So it's going to be like that. I'm going to solder it, and at the end, we're gonna put it back here to cut. Let's see, what do we need to solder, okay? If here you take a look, let's say you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 holes. Actually, these are the pins of your connector, okay? And here you have the other ones because you have 2 rows, okay? And here you are going to mount additional pins which are actually these kind of standard pins used for all kind of little projects, okay? These kind of little pins, okay? So what happens is the initial distance between the 2 rows is 0.1 inches, okay? And what do you need is to get a distance here 0.3 inches, okay? That's exactly the purpose. But to get that pin you have on the connector, you have to solder it here, and this one here, and here, and here, and here. So all the pins, they have to be soldered like that, okay? In such a way that the signals coming on these pins on the connector are going to be transferred on the breadboard on the other pins which are making the initial board enlarging, okay? So having this in mind, we can go to see how to solder all that stuff, okay? So you need a piece of protoboard with 4 rows, okay? So we're going to use, for our little breadboard here, the first 4 rows, okay? I place my little connector in such a way that it has 2 rows of 8 pins. So I'm going to leave 1 hole on the top, 1 hole in the bottom, free. So it's going to be centered, okay? So then, first move you do, you hold it, and you are going to solder pin by pin the connector. Have to be careful because sometimes you are going to solder more than you need. So pin by pin. You have 2 rows to solder. This is done. Now we switch it on the other side. And we solder these ones as well. With soldering, a bit of patience is always required. Good. Once this thing is done, I would prefer to hold it in place. So I'm going to use a little vise for that, to hold it in place. Okay, so then from your string of contacts, you're going to cut 2 pieces of 8, but instead of placing them like you think, which is like that, you're going to place them upside down, because at the end, the black plastic you see here holding all the pins at the distance, we can remove it. So the only thing you have to check is to have these string of pins vertically aligned, okay? So, because you cannot be sure about that from the beginning, you are going to only solder 1 pin. I use 1 pin at the end for that. Be careful, don't touch it with the finger because it's hot. Protect your fingers. So I can see it's aligned, okay? If it is aligned, then I'm going to solder the other pins. one by one. Okay. And once they are soldered, remember what the job was. The job was to solder the inner contact to the external one together. And because we are already here, we're just trying to be careful, because sometimes you're going to solder more than you need. So yes, you may need a little desoldering pump to make sure you're going to fix the problem. Okay. We redo it. So you only have to solder these two pins together. And not the inner ones. Because if you do, and you solder the inner ones, you're going to obviously short. It's a very patient work to do, because you only have to solder the inside ones exactly like this, okay? When there is enough solder between the two, they are going to join together. One more. So you see, these ones are done, okay? And in the moment they are done, you can try gently to remove the piece of plastic. It's still warm, and this is why it's going out easily. So you've done one row, okay? So as you can see here, between the inner contact and the external one, you've made links. You can always check with a scratcher like this to prevent unwanted little pieces of solder remaining. And now you should try to do the same thing over the other side, okay? So you put it in the same position. You try to keep it vertical way if possible, but because you can't make sure about that from the beginning, you only solder one pin like you did on the other side. Let's say I'm gonna pick up this one because it's closer to my eyes. Okay, when I consider is properly aligned, then I'm going to start soldering the other ones. One by one. For the second row is going to be a bit more difficult because there's not much room you have. So you have to find your way for the remaining one. Okay, so then you're going to try to do the same as before, carefully, filling the space between the holes, like this. Joining the two contacts together. very carefully, because otherwise you're going to solder what you don't want. Okay, so right now I'm over here, so I can do this one. Okay, I can do this one as well. Then I can do the next one and the last one. And then I'm going to check it to make sure everything is fine. There is one which didn't solder. I'm gonna go back to look for it. Is right here. I found it. Good. So let's check it again. Okay, I still have some which are not made right. Okay. Let me see. Last one. Okay, this time they look right. We do the same operation as before. Try to remove the little piece of plastic holding them. Comes out. Now, the connector is in place. Everything is soldered, but we're going to cut it now. We move on the other side where we have the little vise ready for cutting. Okay. So this way you're going to see exactly what happens. We clean the room around it. So you're going to try to orient it, the blade with the teeth toward you, and then I told you already, the fiber does not oppose much resistance, but you just to be careful to keep your direction, okay? Because otherwise you're going to have more to work with the sandpaper, okay? We're almost done. Done. See? So now it's cut. It's almost done. So I'm just going to slightly, very slightly adjust it. Okay. I'm going to round the corners. I don't want them to scratch my fingers. I'm not going to cut the other side right now. I'm gonna do this later because it's functional already. And now we have it done, okay? And we have to check it. So we move on the other side to see if we did a good job, okay? I know the work is a bit tedious, but this is the way you are going to do, because these adapters being back ordered, you won't get them any soon, okay? So again, the original adapter was this. So if you are placing the original adapter right here, and the cable, the flat cable, again, always be careful about the notch, and applying power to it, of course, is working. Now we remove it from here, and now we put ours. Ours is this very special one where I didn't cut this part. It doesn't matter, it's still fitting here. I just have to plug it in the right position. As you can see, it's fitting exactly 0.3 inches, which is on the slot of the breadboard. We plug back our connector. We align the notch to the opening. Power on. Take a look. Job done. We've made the connector. It's gonna be the same principle if you want to make it a 20 pin. We've done the 6 pin today. Thank you very much. Job done. See you for the next one. Bye.